Well, hello, everyone, and I am very excited to introduce today's guest, my colleague Taylor. Um, and I have a little brief bio to read, and then we'll just get into the fun part. But here are Taylor's bona fides. Taylor is a psychotherapist, yoga teacher, supervisor, and adjunct professor based in Boston. Her work explores how connection, movement, and play can become acts of restoration and defiance. Taylor helps people heal from trauma and reclaim agency and connection in the face of systems that flatten or pathologize difference. Her practice is integrative and relational, grounded in social work values, somatics, systems thinking, and a deep respect for neurodivergence, complexity, and imperfection. And I am very glad to have you here, Taylor. And welcome to the podcast. You know why we're here.
I do.
And this isn't something you often talk about, but you wanted to talk about dogs, and in particular, caring for them, and there may be some singing involved in this. But why don't you just
Maybe.
get started?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm nervous to be here, but if you give me a forum to talk about my dogs, I will take it. And yeah, so when you first brought the topic up to me, you were asking what sort of playful, weird things do I do? And in the time that we've known each other, I think I've grown that capacity for like play and the absurd and silly. And I thought about the most playful thing I do, or engagement that I have, is with my two dogs. And when I first mentioned it, I talked about the songs I sing, especially to my older senior dog, Jasmine. And she loves to be sung to and sort of demands it or requests it, if you will. But as I thought more about it, I have another dog, Stanley, who's younger, and he can't be sung to because, well, he doesn't like it, and he's reactive, and so I was thinking about the care I provide for these dogs, what that care requires, and how, like, they've been this reflection of certainly my own neurotic patterning, my own trauma, but also an invitation in to heal some of those dynamics through playing with them and caring for them.
So let's maybe start off a little bit, a little earlier. Tell me about Jasmine, and tell me how how you met her.
Yeah, I never wanted a dog. I didn't grow up with dogs, and uh, about, let's see, 6.5 years ago, my partner deeply wanted a dog, and I remember at that time being uh, feeling so rejecting of it, and overwhelmed by that. And I was like, I know dogs can be good stress, but I don't need any more stress. So she came to be, and I was quite resistant. She came to us on a Monday night, and I truly kept my distance from her. By that Thursday, she was my best friend, and I never knew what people meant by like my dog is my best friend, but our attachment sort of formed. She was protective of me. She was also vigilant on walks and, driving towards squirrels. So that's how she came to be. Stanley came to be sort of impulsively in the depths of COVID, longing for a second dog, thinking about Jasmine aging. And I just one night sent in an application for him late one Saturday night, and someone responded almost instantly saying, I'll call you tomorrow about Brownie was his name.
Wait, Stanley's name was originally Brownie?
It was originally Brownie, yes.
Okay.
And he was a foster dog with like 20 other dogs down in, he was from Tennessee. And when Jasmine came, she was sort of like ready-made. She was trained. She was sweet. She crawled on your lap. She could walk on the leash. Stanley came, he was like a bat out of hell. And I had come to love Jasmine, and then Stanley arrived, and once again, I was so rejecting of him. This is too much. You know, I think about the way they snuggle. You know, Jasmine will come and sort of muzzle at your face and demand to be pet. Stanley will do somersaults and flip and kick because he's messy and he's playful. And I remember being like, I can't handle this. You're too much. So my path to them was like rejecting into love. Maybe that's how parenting is too, parenting human children.
Wait, so both of them, it was the same, rejecting into love?
Yes.
And
yeah.
Give us a description of Jasmine and Stanley. How old are they now, and what kind of dogs are they? I think we're going to get pictures up of them. I'm going to ask you to send pictures, and I'll put them up during this part of the podcast.
Would love to do that. So Jasmine is about 13. They're rescues from down south, so age and breed is unknown, but she's about 13. She's a rat terrier, miniature pinscher, Chihuahua mix. Stanley is about 8, also a rat terrier, min pin, Chihuahua mix. So I have a type. You'll see they kind of look like siblings. And Jasmine came from Arkansas, and Stanley came from Tennessee. Both of them, were rescued by small agencies, and I think in Jasmine's case, could have ended up being sent to a kill shelter, and Stanley, could have spent the rest of his life in a foster home. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for listeners, Jasmine is the older one.
She's older, yeah.
And how old was Jasmine when Stanley showed up?
Okay, so this is 2.5 years ago. She's probably 11-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was... we'll talk about Jasmine in a minute, but what was the backstory of this? Like, if I recall right, you were not planning on having Stanley. This kind of got sprung on you a little bit.
Yeah. This is going to be revealing. So I was in bed one Saturday night in the depths of March, and I was sort of in an existential pit, and I was looking into Jasmine's eyes, and you're getting older, and you're gonna leave me, and what's that gonna be like? And I have a family friend, and they always had 2 dogs, an older and a younger one, and the idea was sort of supportive that when one eventually passes, there's another one there to having a sort of dog on deck. And so in my sadness, I looked up rat terrier chihuahuas for adoption, and Stanley popped up, and I submitted an application, and the foster parent texted me almost immediately, and I was sort of like, oh gosh, what have I done? This was a sort of impulsive, sad inquiry, but now I've been sort of there's consequence here to this impulsive action. Yeah.
And you're not allowed at this point to change your mind in your thinking?
I could have. And when he arrived, because Stanley was reactive, it required a lot of time and resource. And I want to talk about the time and resources and dedication it required. I was like, we might need to send him back. It felt more like a passing thought. I don't know if when it came down to it, I could actually return him or you sort of renege on that. I could have, but I wouldn't have. Yeah.
But you were having a moment of, what have I done?
Yeah, what have I done? Yeah. And when we got, truly, he was like, he came, he was disgusting. He was filthy. He was greasy. My husband picked him up, and he came in, and he didn't look anything like his pictures, and he was traumatized. It was the body of a traumatized being. You could see the stress on his eyes and the way his jaw was held. We had to bathe him 2 or 3 times that day just to get the sort of filth off of him. So he wasn't like an appealing dog. Yeah.
So what happened? Why didn't it sounds like they didn't prepare him at all for
Mike, the land of stray dogs in the South it's just wild. I mean, I've lived in Massachusetts my whole life. I've never seen a stray dog. I don't know if you've had that experience.
Hmm.
Down south, it just tends to be a different animal. Most sort of rescue dogs come from the south, and it was actually really sort of disorganized and concerning. I submitted this application. Someone responded right away, and
Hmm.
they put him up on a truck the next couple of days, and we picked him up off of at a rest stop on 95, and they just sort of passed him
Hmm.
over to you without a whole lot of, you
Hmm.
know, background check or anything like that.
Were there other
Yeah.
people at this rest stop too, or just
There were, yeah,
that sounds crazy. So there were
I
dogs
know.
being passed from hand to hand, and people
Yep.
all. And which reps which rest stop of Route 95 was this?
It was actually in Rhode Island,
In
because in Massachusetts, I think there's some like prohibitions against sort of changing hands of animals.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Um,
you get this greasy dog,
yeah.
and what were you thinking when that happened?
Um, Again, I like, what have I done? I don't know if we can keep him.
Hmm.
It more so, my resistance emerged as I walked him and realized he was very fearful
Hmm.
and reactive to everything. And I was like, I'm not equipped to handle this. Yeah, I think I was regretful and quite overwhelmed.
Hmm. And so
Yeah.
what happened next?
So, uh, I hired a trainer. We had an existing trainer we worked with, and that was really transformative. Um, she shout out Katie. Uh, she really sort of conceptualized Stanley and fear in dogs and how we make them sort of behave better. There's certainly a parallel to the work I do, right, in autistic and disability communities, where there's this model of behaviorism and coerced compliance.
Hmm.
And come to find out that doesn't really work that well for humans or for dogs. So hired a trainer who taught us about this is the reactions are about his anxiety and fear. And so, can you create environments and responses that connote safety to him,
Hmm.
so that the reaction goes down, which takes a long time, just like it does with any fearful being, to restore sort of safety and I would say autonomy,
Hmm.
to lessen reactivity. So, in essence, I hired a good trainer who knew Stanley's presentation well.
Hmm. It's
Yeah.
interesting. If you substitute the idea of the word therapist for trainer,
Mm,
and the sort of applied behavioral analysis or CBT models of treatment for therapy versus a psychodynamic model for therapy and a person and environment, or in psychoanalysis we call the turn to the social, as as
mm.
if we ever were not able to be a part of the social. It sounds like you got a dog therapist who was more psychodynamic and helped you in a way that a behavioral approach would not have. Um, was What was Jasmine's response or reaction to the appearance of Stanley?
The family system. It's funny, ahead of time, I had done some research. I was like, okay, Jasmine needs to know that she's the alpha, right? Which again was my own imposition. Rather, dogs will sort it out, but she's the alpha. So she was Jasmine would have lived a long, happy life without a sibling. She wasn't thrilled about Stanley, and so, but I think over time there's been a tolerance and a implicit fondness or kinship, but it's not like she would show it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we should back up and tell us how you met Jasmine.
So Jasmine, that was my husband's undertaking. He wanted a dog. It was a sort of childhood wish he wanted to fulfill. So he led the way, and that was a more sort of thorough process. They interviewed us and viewed our home and checked references. But she came along and, again, was trained and sweet and amenable, and like relatively easy, I would say. And so like a really fast companion. Yeah. Yeah.
But Jasmine, it turns out, I'm just looking at some of the information you sent me.
Sure.
It turns out that Jasmine isn't perfect and that she does, in fact, have stinky poop. And I'm wondering if you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah. So somewhere, I think early on, I just started spontaneously singing to her. Sometimes they were renditions of other songs. I was thinking about this yesterday in anticipation of our meeting. So Zombie by the Cranberries is like Poopy by Taylor. And so we just started singing to her, and for whatever reason, we can analyze this. Singing about her being stinky or being a poop tended to be the lyrics of choice. Yeah, and I don't know exactly where that came from. Yeah, but and I don't know if it's the singing, not the lyrics, but she loves it, and if you stop, she paws at you and demands more. Yeah, it's sweet and it's really silly.
So you just started singing to her.
I just started singing to her. Yeah,
Do you sing in general?
I don't. That's an unfulfilled wish too. Do I sing? I sing. I don't have any training. I find singing really like cathartic and expressive. But I've thought a lot about finding a forum to sing more or get some training so I feel a little more confident. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you feel confident enough to sing to Jasmine.
Oh yeah, and there's an Instagram handle, you should check it out. It's called Puppy Songs. So it's this person and he's recorded records of puppy songs, all the songs he sings, also to his elderly chihuahuas. So then I found a lot of kinship with him. Yeah.
Wait, did you find this before you started singing to Jasmine, or was this like oh my God, I'm not alone? There are other people singing.
Oh my God, and I'm singing his songs to Jasmine. Like he has this song "Spot for My Snoot," like their little snout. Call it a snoot.
Huh?
Spot for my snoot. Gotta find a spot for my snoot. Yeah, it's so that's one of the songs we sing. Yeah. And
what other songs? So how many of these, I guess, are your creations, and how many of these are other people's songs?
Gosh, I should have made a track list. I got distracted thinking about other topics for us. I didn't generate a track list. So some, I don't know, I'm not really sure. Maybe like half and half, 50-50 are generated, or I'm thinking of other like renditions, like Akon's "Beautiful Girl." We sing "Beautiful Poop" to Jasmine. Beautiful poop, you are my stinky poop. It's just like it's yeah. Those tend to be the lyrics.
So I'm thinking we've got some time because this podcast is happening in the past, but people are going to be seeing it in the future. We will have time for you to compile a playlist of dog songs, and we will put it in the podcast so people have access to it.
Okay.
Does your husband sing these songs too?
He does, yes. And I'll have to touch base with him because I want to owe him credit that he has certainly generated his own as well. Yeah. So this is like a family affair here.
How do you go into creating? How does one go about creating these songs? Does it happen sort of spontaneously while you're singing, or do you
Yeah,
pre-record?
for me it's totally spontaneous, and I don't record them or write down lyrics or anything. It's very spontaneous. Sometimes it doesn't work or land right or rhyme. Yeah.
I do want to get more of a sense of how you do play with these animals, and in
Yeah.
fact, what sort of ways that has facilitated connection with. Oh, it sounds like at least one very traumatized dog.
Yeah. So the singing to them, I think, is certainly one type of play. And for Jasmine, who's sort of slowed down, right? She likes to cuddle and have me sing to her. But the play shows up. So they're in other ways. They're both rat terriers, so they have a really strong prey drive. So other forms of play are, like roughhousing and crawling around on the ground and hiding treats. So they can sort of sniff them out. And with Stanley, who's a bit more active, you know, going out into the world and like chasing squirrels with him. And, thinking again about this like traditional models of like behavior and compliance, it's like rather than seeing the animal or the person in front of you, like what he's meant to do, he's a rat terrier. He's meant to hunt small prey. And so is he having behaviors and reactions, or is he not being given access to like what he's bred and meant to do? So I chase a lot of squirrels. I mean, yesterday I tumbled down a hill chasing a squirrel with him, right? I try to lean into that and play with him in that way.
Where are you chasing squirrels? What does this look like?
In the arboretum. So and again, it's like wild looking. When I'm out with him by myself, I'm chasing squirrels. We're running and exclaiming, falling down hills. Yeah,
Did you get hurt?
mostly the Arnold Arboretum.
Or-
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how long after you first got Stanley? Because I'm thinking back to what you were talking about earlier. This image of like him being on a lead and you're being, kind of concerned and maybe even regretful and not sure whether this was a good idea. And
Yeah.
now, fast forward, you are chasing squirrels and falling down hills in the Arnold Arboretum with this dog. So, what happened? How did that transformation occur?
Yeah. I I think that's where like I had to change more so than Stanley had to be anything other than he was. So some of it was just like learning through a really skillful trainer about again, like this idea of like again creating safety in a traumatized dog, and then creating the conditions so they can sort of like meet their biological needs, right? Like creating the conditions for him to thrive. But then I have to be patient and willing enough to do that, right? A sort of discipline or punishment model is actually a lot easier for dog owners or dog trainers. So I had to change myself. And you know me pretty well. I'm someone who I tend to live in a linear, controlled way. And those elements weren't going to work in training Stanley.
How did you know that? Like, when did you know, oh, this is not going to work?
Well, because whatever I was doing wasn't working, and I was growing more frustrated and he was growing more reactive. So getting feedback, but it's ongoing. I mean, I realize it even, yesterday, right? When I'm, we're heading back home or I'm in a time crunch, when I want to move forward, but he's not yet ready, I have two options. I can drag him forward and be frustrated and stress him out. Or it's like, wait, Taylor, what's going to work here? I have to like pause, right? He's hypervigilant. So let's let him look around. See, what is he detecting? he gets a sense of safety through that pause, and then he comes along when he's ready.
Mm.
So I don't think there was a moment. I think I'm continuing to learn that. Can I like the stopping and starting is something I've thought a lot about.
Mm.
I don't love stopping and starting. I like to just chug forward.
Has there been a way that Stanley's hypervigilance has changed the way you see the Arboretum and you see walks?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, it has. It, I guess like my first thought is all the information he's picking up on that I might otherwise miss or we might otherwise miss, just sort of walking through, power
Mm-hmm.
walking through, that there's a whole other layers of activity and sense material that he's tuned into.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if I slow down and pause, sometimes I can register it, sometimes I can't. Um,
Have you
yeah, I
gotten
forget the
better at
second.
Have you gotten better at seeing squirrels, finding
Oh my
squirrels?
God. Yeah, and sometimes I'm like, dude, how do you not see that one? He's right in front of us. You know? Well, oh my gosh, I catch every chipmunk, squirrel. I mean, I know the Arboretum in such a different way, right? I know where all the chipmunk colonies are, you
Mm.
know? I know where the bunnies nest and the squirrels tend to congregate, where the blue jays nest. Like, I know the Arboretum in such a much more rich way. Yeah.
One of the reasons I was asking that is that this has been a theme that's emerging in the podcast with each person, that engaging in whatever their quirky activity or playful activity is has
Mm.
some sort of transformative power in terms of perception, that you sort of see things differently. You see objects in the world differently. You get different relationships to them. So that's why I was wondering about that with Stanley. Jasmine doesn't sound like
Yeah.
so far a squirrel chaser.
She actually is, but she's older now,
Hmm.
so she just and she'll go for it if she. So she has some blindness, and she's actually sick right now. Hopefully, she'll be okay. Um, but she does. If the timing and the moment is right, she will lunge for a squirrel, or a chipmunk.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm having another association about what you said, that these silly or playful practices, they how we like then like maybe transformed or see the environment around us differently. I With all this stopping and starting with Stanley, I like when I have to stop, um I'll like pause and I'll take a deep breath and I'll look up toward the sky,
Hmm.
and it reminds me a lot of like an awe practice. I don't know if you've ever read that book,
Hmm.
The Science of Awe, or The Practice of Awe.
Mm-mm.
Um, but just it's that feeling often evoked in nature, just of like feeling really small, but in a grounded way. So
Hmm.
the Arboretum is this really precious, unique place, and so I can pause and take in like the vastness and the size of the trees and come into this rich sensory experience, so that
Hmm.
and that's helped me in the pause, right? I'm stopping, but it's to come to like presence, and I often feel quite um grounded but inspired and like small in a good way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How, when you were saying that, I was sort of associating to politics, which may not come as a surprise, but this sort of the sort of wrenching experience I think a lot of us are feeling with stopping and starting and what's happening now, and we think we're
Mm.
making a little progress, and then there's a setback, and all of this really halting, jerking, wrenching momentum, and yet underneath and beyond and much bigger than that is life, sort of like the arboretum, that not that
Yeah.
our moment doesn't require us to do things, but I think I get very frustrated in the moment, like things aren't happening fast enough or things aren't happening in the way I want, and yet
Yeah.
this in the long run will be such a small moment and hopefully unimportant moment with the forces of authoritarian and fascism, and that ultimately life is continuing underneath it, flowing underneath it and behind it. And you kind of remind, I think where I was associating was partly where you're talking about encountering your impatience, right? Like it's like Stanley doesn't have a problem with stopping and starting and stop, like Stanley's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, in the last 9 months, in the last 10 years, like I think one of the most radical things you can do is like actually live your own life and the little particulars of it deeply. Like I think it's radical, like paying attention to your own life and living it, as you say, like tending to the life flow underneath it. I mean, for me, it's restorative, and maybe it's distracting. I don't know, but I just it feels like the thing I have a say over and I have some choice in.
I think therapists have a hard time not fixing things.
Yeah.
Even those of us who are trained, don't just do something, sit there, right? I still think there is this churning, and maybe it comes from, a good place. I don't know. I don't want to judge whether it's good or not, but I think people have this image of therapists from the outside in that we're remarkably patient, present, nurturing people. And yet here you are describing, at least in part of your life, you're like, oh, would you go? Would you stop? Would you go?
Right. Yeah, I think so. I'm also a yoga teacher. And I remember someone remarked to me one time, you must be so calm and regulated all the time. And I was like befuddled. I was like, why do you think I practice? Like, I'm not calm at all, right? Like this is a something I need. But I totally agree. Yeah, therapist. I mean, you and I've talked a lot about this, right? Therapists, and I know I can carry a sense of like hyper responsibility and need to do something or make distress go away. And like, I don't know, I'm growing my capacity to like be with distress.
Yeah.
Whether it's in my distressed dog or, distressed systems. Yeah.
We're kind of doing it now, aren't we? Like, we've got this pressure of like, oh, this podcast has to kind of be didactic or give someone something, instead of, we're just two people talking about your dogs. Right?
Yeah. I know, I feel it within me. I'm like, I can't just like rant about my dogs on Mike's podcast,
No, that's why you're on.
Yeah.
What gets in the way about talking about your dogs to people?
Yeah. I think a few things. Well, I'm sure it's why you started this podcast. Like, it seems like there's this like absence or shortage of conversations around joy and play. Like, it almost seems like maybe too privileged or out of touch to talk about the fun you're having or the joy you're having. Maybe especially in really politically engaged spaces and therapy. I mean, I think about our work is so problem focused, right? And I reflect that back to patients, or especially when I work with parents, like our conversation doesn't have to be problem focused, or people don't know what to do when I don't have much to talk about today. And it's like, we could talk about what's going good, or we could play a game. I do that with adult patients. Why don't we want to play a game? Right? You don't have to have some stress or problem for therapy to be functional. So I don't know if it's just my own conditioning or the sense of I don't want to misread the room. Or I tend to have relationships with people who are really cynical like myself. And so the conversations just tend to be kind of doomy.
So in some ways we're talking about some stereotypically white liberal stuff, right? It's like, I'm a dog rescuer. that's okay. Like rescuing animals that are vulnerable and need care and have been mistreated, that I'm comfortable with. It's part of my identity as the sort of white savior. I'm going to go in and rescue this dog, and then we're sort of like, okay, this is going to be a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot of fun, but I'm not going to want to. There's something shameful about like that you're having fun chasing squirrels, and meanwhile, Stanley's not thinking about, gee, am I chasing squirrels enough? Did I chase the right squirrels, or have I chased enough squirrels to liberate all rat terriers everywhere? He's just doing his thing. And what happens to white liberals when we can't rescue someone or frame ourselves as the provider of comfort and solace?
Yeah. No, that lands. Like, and it can just, it's not connected to an outcome or a do-good accolade, or there hasn't had to be suffering with it. It's just, this is joyful.
Yeah. And there's nothing. So going back to this sort of your trainer, who sounds like they were very wise. This idea of compliance not being the best for dogs or humans. And I'm wondering if one of the things the trainer was doing was helping you be less anxious about performing, so that doesn't get transferred rather to Stanley.
Yeah, and in the dog training world, like the leash is communication tool. That's when you have a tight grip on the leash or you pull, that communicates to the dog, right? Or if you think about sort of here I go applying the theory, but like affect regulation, right? And like mirroring and reflection, but like that, I mean, certainly that happens body to dog body, but through the leash. And so I think absolutely dog training is about training the humans, because all of that is suggested to the animal non-verbally. So absolutely.
And so
and I
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm like, when I'm really tuned in, and I have to be tuned in, the almost polls, the polls I'll have on the leash, I can see the direct outcome, what that leads him to do, right? To his ears perk up, or his eyes dart around, or maybe he growls or lunges, right? But that originated actually from me.
That's a powerful description. That originated from you. I'm wondering, because back to your chasing squirrels. Is he on a leash all that time?
He is. So I have him on a retractable, or a long lead, or a retractable. He doesn't have recall. Terriers are famously bad at recall because the prey drive is so high. Almost nothing will overcome that. So yeah, he's on a long, like 15 to 18 foot retractable, which means it extends itself, and then I have no option but to run with him if we want to get some more distance.
And how is it running with him?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard. I have some knee stuff, so there's some physical limitations. But it's like it's fun. It's in the moment. It's I don't know, childlike. I feel almost like I'm in it with him. Like I want to let's get this squirrel. We've never, no squirrels are harmed in chasing them. But there's
disclosure.
This. Yeah, it's he did catch a bird one time, but he released it. So you're kind of like flow state that athletes describe. Not that I'm not running at full tilt, but there's you're in it. Yeah.
And does it help? Do you transcend the sense of the knee injury when you're in that flow state?
I do. I'm not as fast as I'd like to be, but I do. Right? It's not painful. It's interesting. More so, encouraging, right? I'm not as limited as I thought I was.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it asks me to not be self-conscious, that I can run in a really clunky way.
Right.
The Arboretum's filled with people, and I can chase squirrels around and be playful and not be overly concerned with, how I'm being observed.
Have you gotten raised eyebrows about your singing to your dog or your running?
I'm not sure. There have been times where, and you asked me about singing earlier. I do sing. There was a period of time last summer, um, where my mother-in-law was very sick and dying, and so all summer plans were on hold. And so the only thing I that sort of made summer were taking these really long walks. And I found at the time I was just singing aloud, and it was very cathartic. I was singing a lot of Bob Dylan, and I would really belt it out. And there were times where I'd turn a corner and there would be someone right there. And sometimes they would giggle or maybe have a raised eyebrow. So yes, but I don't know. I haven't paid too much attention.
Because you're in a flow state, right? You're not.
I'm in a flow state. Yeah, I'm in a flow state. Yeah, yeah.
You had said something in your email that I thought was interesting. You sort of talk, you sort of described some of this stuff as anti-fascist, decapitalized, and trauma-informed joy. So I wanted to give you a chance to explain what the heck do you mean by that? How is walking and training your dogs and caring for them anti-fascist, decapitalist, and trauma-informed joy?
Well, again, this is territory I'm more comfortable talking about rather than singing you a rendition here. I'm so aware of that, Mike. Well, as I'm training this reactive dog who, it's unlinear, is non-compliant, if you will, quote unquote. I was thinking a lot about like the parallels to like who we decide is worthy of devoting time and resources and care to. And we see this all the time, right? There are groups of people and demographics that are deemed sort of worthy or sort of productive. Stanley isn't producing anything, right? By some measures, Stanley's not even a good dog, right? He's kind of a bad dog, And I remember having that realization. I was like, he's not a good dog. And my husband is like, yeah, Taylor, he's a bad dog. And yet I care and devote anyways, and spend money and time, and nurture this being and try to offer conditions that are like restorative. And I just think that's not the trend in our systems of care for people. So there's that. The other thing I thought about is, and again, I haven't like touched too much into like my like rage and fury about the state of things, but like people are what's the word? Relinquishing their pets at record numbers to shelters because they simply can't afford them, and it's incredibly painful. And the part that I get really sort of furious about is like we have these beings, we have dogs, and this applies to children too, that are totally unattainable to people unless you have certain means and enough money. And I get furious because I find that sentiment of like, well, don't have children if you can't afford them, or don't get a dog if you can't afford it. I find it incredibly condescending and kind of dehumanizing, right? Like that, and you know me, like I'm a fiscally responsible person, right? I have a ton of anxiety about money, but the fury around only certain people get access to these beings, children or pets that bring so much joy and meaning and can be quite healing, but they become a sort of luxury good. So that's sort of what I was thinking about in my email. Yeah.
Well, and there's something in what you're saying about relationships are something only certain people can afford to have.
Yeah.
And that kind of cuts both ways, because it, as you said, sort of isolates certain groups of people of having the privilege of being able
Mm-hmm.
to afford a relationship, but also the other way, which is if you can't afford a relationship, then you end it, you get rid of it. And
Yeah.
and rather than what systems could be in place to support folks that want to maintain a relationship with, for example, a companion animal,
Right.
right? Instead, we kind of warehouse the animal or send it to the next person that could afford to care for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I guess the other thing I was thinking about too is I have this like shameful introject when I am caring for Stanley or devoting a lot of money, getting them supplements or something where, and I know where it comes from, but like, oh, you're going to spend that much money on an animal or a dog. And reclaiming, like, yeah, I am. And I know that comes from a place of privilege and sort of class, being located in a certain class. But if I come back to this idea of like, what are the conditions that help beings thrive, right? In the same way that us humans, like most of us, like if we could access, would benefit from, I don't know, body work, right? Or time to meditate, right? Or get acupuncture or eat organically or, and it's like, so when I'm not feeding the like, oh, this is like kind of embarrassing or this is my privilege is showing. It's like, no, this is a choice I'm making and I want to, and I'm able to create the conditions for this being to live a long, well life. Right. In the same way I want to buy, if I can buy like humanely raised, meat, pork or beef or something, right? That like we can care about the dignity, right? And the life of these creatures.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to just link up because Taylor is not doing this podcast for pay. She's doing it for fun and for free. And one of the things that we ask folks if they are coming on doing for fun and for free, do you have a specific nonprofit that you would like to have folks consider donating to? And I'm going to share the screen so you all can see this. Taylor has picked the Small Dog Rescue of New England. And Taylor, do you want to take a minute or two to explain, what this is and why it's someplace people might want to consider donating?
Sure. So it's on theme. I guess it wasn't totally clear. I really have a thing for small dogs. So this is a local organization here. I think they're housed in Rhode Island, but they rescue dogs, small dogs, usually under like 25 pounds, from kill shelters in the South, and do the work to transport them up here. They're volunteer only. They're a wonderful organization. They do like thorough vetting of their adopters, and just like so many other volunteer organizations can use all the help they can get.
And did Stanley and or Jasmine come to you from Small Dog Rescue?
Neither of them. Jasmine was from an organization called Last Hope Canine, and Stanley's, again, his adoption story was a bit more shady. I don't even think he came through a sort of legitimate organization. But I donate monthly to Small Dog Rescue, and found out about them after adopting mine.
So before you leave us, one of the things I'm asking each person that comes on the podcast is to try to give an answer to what kind of advice you might give listeners who want to cultivate some playful subversions in their own lives, but feel stuck or guilty or ashamed about doing so.
Well, I have two thoughts. One is, like, is it already there? Like, can you look differently in a way to see how your playful, resistant, subversive self already exists? And so to view yourself in your life differently. Because I wonder if it's, when you had asked me, Mike, at first, I was like, I'm not doing anything subversive. What, Um, so I wonder if it's already there. The shame piece, I think I can push back on pretty firmly of like, what are the alternatives, right? To
Mm,
not feed and nourish as part of ourself, right? The slip into sort of cynicism and depression feel readily available. And so I would really push back on the shame and say like I think it's needed more than ever, right?
mm,
To play and be subversive in the spirit of sort of restoring oneself.
mm.
Sometimes I talk with patients about being like, trying to cultivate some understanding for shame or see its function. I feel like firmly about like kick it aside and play. Like it's like it feels like it almost feels like life or death or like a mandate.
Mm.
Yeah.
It feels that urgent to you.
It feels urgent. Yeah. Yeah.
Taylor Young, thank you so much for joining us.